Let's be honest. If you're renting in Taiwan right now, you've probably felt that squeeze on your wallet. It feels like rents are just going up and up and up. It's a perfect storm, really. So in this explainer, we're going to get into it and unpack exactly why your rent is so high.
So I've got to ask, has your rent gone up recently? You know that feeling, right? You get that notice from your landlord, you see the new number, and you just kind of sink a little. Well, if that sounds familiar, trust me, you are not alone. It's a feeling shared all across Taiwan, and the official numbers, they're pretty jaw-dropping. So in 2024, the official rental index jumped by 2.45%. Now, I know what you're thinking. 2.45%? That doesn't sound like a catastrophe. But get this, it is the single highest annual increase in 28 years. Rents are climbing faster right now than they have in nearly 3 decades.
And you know, behind every statistic, there are real people. People like Miss Tai, who rents in Taipei. She said her rent can eat up about half of her entire monthly salary. Just think about that. Half of your paycheck, gone, just to keep a roof over your head. It perfectly captures the insane pressure so many people are feeling.
Okay, so what's causing all this? To really get the full picture, we have to start with the usual suspects. You know, the foundational pressures that have been building up for a while now.
It's really like a domino effect, and all these things are connected. First, housing prices are sky high, which forces more and more people to rent instead of buy. At the same time, you've got inflation hitting everything, from building materials for repairs to your utility bills. And then there's the landlords. Their own mortgage rates have hit a 15-year high. And guess where every single one of those extra costs ends up? Yep, passed right on to you, the renter.
And the speed of this change has just been dramatic. I mean, for over 2 decades, from 1999 all the way to 2021, rent increases were super stable, almost always less than 1% a year. It was predictable. But then, something shifted. In 2022, it jumped to 1.68%, then 2.16% in 2023, and by February of this year, it hit 2.57%. This isn't a slow creep anymore. It's a steep, steep climb.
So all those things we just talked about, they're kind of the baseline pressure, but they don't quite explain this sudden, massive surge. So what if I told you that a major government policy, one that was supposed to make housing cheaper, might actually be a key reason renting is getting more expensive?
And this is where the story takes a really unexpected turn. We're about to uncover the plot twist, the unintended consequences of a policy called the Hoarding Tax 2.0.
Okay, so the Hoarding Tax 2.0 was created with a really good goal, right? The idea was to hit people who own multiple homes that they don't live in with much higher taxes. The hope was it would push them to sell those extra properties, which would increase the housing supply and hopefully bring prices down for everyone. On paper, it sounds like a solid plan.
But the chain reaction that actually happened was something totally different. Instead of selling their properties, a lot of landlords just looked at their new, bigger tax bill, shrugged, and passed that cost straight down the line. It became a direct pass-through from their new expense sheet right onto your monthly rent payment.
And the impact of this perfect storm, you've got inflation, the rising interest rates, and now this new tax getting passed on, has been huge, and it's been felt very differently depending on where you live in Taiwan. So let's look at the actual numbers.
Just look at this data. The differences are absolutely staggering. Hsinchu saw a mind-blowing 21.3% jump in rent in just 1 year. 21%. New Taipei City and Taoyuan weren't far behind with double-digit growth too. You can see this huge divide between what's happening in the north and the rest of the country.
So why the massive gap? Well, it's really a tale of 2 different markets. In the north, especially around Hsinchu, you've got this intense concentration of tech parks and high-paying jobs, which creates incredible demand for housing. It's like a pressure cooker. So when landlords pass on new costs in an already hot market, prices just explode. Meanwhile, in central and southern Taiwan, there's a bit more new housing supply, and the population pressure isn't quite as intense, which leads to more manageable increases.
And this chart really brings home the human cost of all of this. In Taipei, the average renter is now spending a whopping 38% of their salary just on rent. 38%! Even in Hsinchu and New Taipei, it's about a third of a person's entire income. That leaves so little left over for saving, for other bills, for actually living your life.
So, after all that, where do we go from here? We've looked at the causes, we've seen the effects, so now let's talk about what this new reality actually means for renters.
For renters, it's a real catch-22. You're basically trapped. Buying a home feels impossible for so many, but with rents this high, it's also nearly impossible to save up enough for a down payment. That perfect storm of inflation, interest rates, and passed-on taxes isn't going away. And while government subsidies are out there, for many people, it feels like a drop in a very big, very expensive ocean.
So what can you actually do about it? Well, experts have a few suggestions. If you have a good relationship with your landlord, try to renew your lease early and lock in your current rate before it goes up again. You could also start exploring neighborhoods a little further out on the MRT or train lines where things might be a bit more affordable. And, absolutely, make sure you look into any and all government rent subsidies that you might qualify for.
You know, this whole situation just proves that good intentions aren't always enough. A policy that was designed to make housing more affordable ended up, for many, making renting more expensive. It leaves us with this really tough question. How do we actually achieve housing justice for everyone without accidentally hurting the very people we're trying to help? That's the real challenge we're facing. Thanks for digging into this with us.